Have you been following kind of the Roe V Wade overturning?
Yeah, very closely.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's pretty fucked up what's going on.
Okay.
I think everybody should have the right to choose, well, particularly women. I think when it's something that's affecting your body, you should have the right to choose how you should have the right to choose how you go about your own health. And I think taking that away from people, and not even just taking away, but criminalizing it, is a very backward step for a country that prides itself on freedom.
Mm-hmm. Criminalizing abortion?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think, Mary? What's your opinion?
I think it's terrible. It's awful.
Same reasoning?
Yeah.
So let me.
Damn, bro. HasanAbi heads really have girlfriends out here? That's crazy.
Is it your impression that Roe V Wade
I don't know why I said
overturning? Well, let me ask you this first. What do you think about the leak? And the fact that this was leaked from the Supreme Court?
I think it's pretty crazy to have like a leak of that magnitude. But
Yeah.
I think it's also very important that that we have this knowledge so you can at least like talk about it before this all happens. We have a very hard right-leaning Supreme Court right now, which we've had, of course, this is America, we've had whether Democrat or Republican, in the very large gist of the political scale, we were right-leaning throughout our history. But right now it's to an extent that we really haven't seen in a very, very long time, really, since the Civil War.
I think he's doing a pretty decent job so far.
So when you start taking away rights that have been affirmed over and over and over, on this magnitude, I think it's important to.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. But you sound like you're pretty right wing because you talked about freedoms and personal liberties. That's.
No, I think freedom and personal liberties, right wing or left.
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah, bro, right wing. Famously, yeah. Freedom and personal liberty is a famously right wing concept. I love that he says that as he's quite literally arguing about, quite literally positioning himself to defend like federal government's right to deny women a medical procedure.
There's always bipartisan issues, and no matter who you are, you're a fucking communist. You're communist because you think freedom is of this way, and I'm not a communist, but and you're hard right wing, it's because you want freedoms in this way. Everybody has their own ideas of how to get there.
No, communism is not about freedom. It's pretty clearly expressed. It's anti-freedom. Like there's no one who argues that communism is freedom.
There's communists that argue that.
Well, not Marx or Lenin.
Marx does argue about the freedom that comes with communism. It's about the leadership of the proletariat, which is the individual, which if you're into individualism, I'd assume.
Can I ask you?
Okay, I've literally described this before in exactly these words. I don't think he's a follower, but like yes, he's right. He's 100% correct. The most common misconception about Marxism is that it revolves around like collectivism and there's no there's no individual liberties under Marxism. It's completely bullshit. The entire purpose of Marxism is to specifically create further individual liberties for the average worker, okay? That's the whole point. And the only way to achieve that is by allowing workers to have a different relation with the means of production. That's where like society is built around, okay? The way we create commodities, the way we create value, and everything revolving around that is basically reinforce the capitalist dogma that we live through on a daily basis. That's why concepts such as meritocracy are so difficult to shake. People want to fundamentally believe that, like it's a truth about human nature. Concepts such as greed are so difficult to shake because that's being reinforced from every facet of our development. But ultimately, the main purpose is so that people can have a life of meaning. People can have more individual liberties. And the only way to achieve that is through collective action.
Is it freedom if you're taking my rights away?
So, well, this is
the right
interesting.
to my own body.
Sorry. This is interesting. I think there's kind of two different questions. Is the idea, and if we want to talk about sort of abortion, we can. I sort of want to discuss the impression of the law. So you mentioned like federally, criminalizing abortion. Are you under the impression that that's what the overturning of Roe v. Wade is?
The overturning of Roe v. Wade is giving states the right to criminalize abortion.
Yeah.
It's okay.
States to set their own rules.
But if you go deeper into it,
more specifically, like in the second and first trimester.
If you get into this, there is a big discussion.
Okay, now I do now feel like Steven Crowder is a little bit more intimidated. I don't think he's used to just like having any sort of pushback whatsoever. So like the first moment that he has like a person who is not like a borderline Democrat, he doesn't have like he doesn't have the talking tree established for this kind of attitude. Like whenever someone comes in with like even a crumb of theory or a little bit of materialist thought, like he's like, okay, well I don't know what to do.
Discrepancy, particularly in the U.S. between income levels. And if you, particularly in a state like Texas, which is fucking huge, as you know, if you don't make enough, like, it costs to get to another state to have an abortion, just to travel out, it's going to be like, gas prices are incredibly high, all this. Just
what are they
to get
today?
to another,
Are they over
like
4?
four something. Yeah.
It's not that bad.
That's pretty. He just said it was bad. Seems like you're couching it a little bit.
Anyways.
Look at him trying to, he literally is trying to desperately, at the very least, like, deflect away from the main conversation now. One method of doing that is by pitting the two people that are here together against one another, because he's just, like, trying. He's trying to fucking move on to something. But gas prices is a great fucking take, because ultimately it's, like, from a leftist position, like, if you're arguing about the material realities that the proletariat is subjected to, then, you know, it's very difficult for him. If you're a worker, if you have a worker first position in your argument, it's very difficult for these pieces of shit to continue LARPing as they care about workers. The moment that you actually are genuinely talking about workers' rights or talking about individual liberties from the point of view of the working class Americans, then all of a sudden he has to go back to his reactionary perspective.
You don't have the money, which there are quite a lot of low-income people, not just in Texas, but in the U.S. in general, to get out, to access your right to an abortion, which isn't even your right unless you're in another state. You can only do that if you have money. So unless there's I'm against criminalizing abortion completely, but if you want to go like that and you still care about personal freedoms and rights, there should be like very hardcore programs to allow the people that do want it to go to another state. And how it's set up right now, it's leading the way to make it not just illegal to have an abortion within Texas or whatever state that criminalizes it, but to make it criminal to go to another state to get an abortion. And I think that's like it's pretty totalitarian and authoritarian.
So where would it make it? Your impression is that it would make it criminal to go to another state to get an abortion?
No, but that's what it's leading up to, because these are precedents we're talking about. This is how the Supreme Court.
Steven Crowder acting like he's never heard of this concept is hilarious. Is like, dog, come on. Like, this is what happens when you fucking debate right-wingers, by the way. Like, what? Doi? You mean they're gonna criminalize traveling to another state? That's crazy. It's like, bro, are you fucking stupid? Of course they're gonna do that. The entire purpose of the fucking right-wing, anti-abortion movement is to literally criminalize at the federal level, okay? That's like what their goal is. Shut the fuck up. And all these pieces of shit used to lie for years and years and years about how they never wanted to overturn Roe V Wade, you know what I mean? But they did. And now that they got that, now they're going to turn around and be like, oh, well, we just don't want to criminalize at the federal level. Come on, that'd be crazy. If you take your foot off the gas pedal for even a brief moment, the right wing will take advantage of that. And also, if I'm not mistaken, Texas currently, it doesn't criminalize traveling, but it uses the bounty system against people who might leave the state and get an abortion anyway. Texas bounty hunter abortion ban is a dire warning of what laws ahead for reproductive rights. You can get sued if you assist someone to get an abortion in another state. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's precisely why Connecticut, for example, made a counter legislation to basically make it so that if someone sues you because you went and got an abortion in the state of Connecticut, then the state of Connecticut will help you defend yourself. Like, it's so fucking stupid.
I haven't heard that suggested at any kind of.
Well, I just told you. This is how precedents work in legal scenarios. You're setting a very large precedent like this, which gives people the right to go further and further and further. The whole Roe V Wade precedent is based on that it's not allowed. This abortion wasn't mentioned in the Constitution, but also the right to marry interracially isn't in the Constitution. The right to, like.
Stephen Crowder's like, yeah, great example, actually. We should fucking destroy that next. He's like, yeah, that's true.
A lot of things that we take as very granted and that are important aren't mentioned in the Constitution. So I think this is like a very dangerous thing that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think and your question was, now I understand where you're coming from. I would disagree with, first off, do you mean precedent or precedents? You used both.
Precedent.
Okay, precedent, yeah. And you asked me a question earlier.
I asked you a question?
Yeah, you asked me a question. I wanted to get to the Supreme Court kind of Roe v. Wade law. So I actually appreciate that you understand that it goes to the states, and the states have that have that right? Because you actually.
Oh, dude, he moved on. He literally was like, oh, well, I respectfully disagree. Pivot to her. That's bullshit. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
A lot of people think that there's a federal criminalizing of abortion, which isn't really the case.
No,
No.
it's up to the
A lot of people think this. Okay, well, they don't. So talk to them. Why don't you, I don't know, why don't you talk to the people in front of you and not a lot of people?
To the states. Yeah. I don't really, I haven't seen
But-
any literature that
over
suggests
half-
that.
She's the real HasanAbi head, by the way. He is, I mean, he's in the chat as well, but she is the, I'm gonna clock him right now. Okay, this is the real HasanAbi head. She's in the chat. This is the boyfriend of the HasanAbi head who, is tangentially aware.
And it's also, I think it's also very difficult when it leads it to the states, because the gerrymandering is so intense in places like Texas and stuff, which really skews the political outlook when the large majority of people in cities like this, like Dallas, do vote blue, and I'm not a Democrat. In fact, I'm very heavily against the Democratic Party, just about as equally as much as I'm against the Republican Party. US politics are fucked across the board.
So how would you identify?
I am progressive, left-leaning. I believe in human rights, which, I mean, I think we all deserve a right to. We're the richest country in the world, and it's 2022. We're very progressive. We have the right to health care. We have the right to bodily autonomy and to be an individual person, to chase your self-actualization, be the person you want to be, as long as you're not harming anybody else. I know this is where it comes down to, because in abortion, in this rhetoric, it always comes down to whether you believe a fetus is a person or not. And I believe, because I don't remember, and nobody remembers what they were as a fetus because you're not sentient, I don't believe you're a person until you're born, until you're a sentient being.
I don't remember anything before my second birthday.
Yeah,
I
me
think
neither,
it all
which is what
really leads up.
well, I'm also not advocating for aborting someone at a year old, but this
No, I
is
know,
not
but I'm
what
saying
we're
the
talking about.
line of
Right.
sentience.
Pregnancy that they can't afford, that that would lead up to a lot of high rates of infant mortality. People can't take care of a child. People can't go to the doctor. It's a problem. The healthcare system is awful. You can't.
Yes, pregnancy in this country, unfortunately, can also mean a death sentence because of a lack of adequate prenatal care. It is significantly higher, if not twice the amount of every other comparable OECD nation. It is fucking insane. And it's getting worse, for the record. It is getting actually worse.
I'm 21. I could never afford to have a child. I can afford my health insurance that is expensive, but once a year, twice a year, go to the doctor, but that's about it. I can't afford to go to a hospital and have a child.
We can't even afford to go to the hospital in
I
general.
can't afford housing in this state, in this country. I can't.
Yeah, I can't
really.
even afford to go to the doctor in general. If I get actually sick, like I'm people that make $100,000 a year, you get cancer, you're bankrupt.
Where do you work?
Right now, I just got back from Europe doing a study abroad, so this is my first day back, so I don't have a
What were you
job right now. I study human rights, actually.
Okay, cool.
I study human rights and international studies.
And where were you studying?
You know, that's the problem. You should have studied human wrongs, motherfucker. Dude, look at him. Dude, he's just like, he's completely conceited. He just now turned around and he's just like, oh, what did you study? Like, shut the fuck up, Steven. Go back to the main conversation. He's just doing
Yeah,
small
I study
talk.
human rights. We bought our house for $80,000. That neighborhood's about $400,000 now because of these multi-corporations coming in
Like
and buying up
Vanguard
whole
and
neighborhoods.
BlackRock.
Yeah.
We'd probably agree. Elizabeth Warren said they should be too big to fail. But I don't think any company is too big to fail. They should fail.
Yeah, but I understand where you're going with this situation, and I also believe that. I believe that when a corporation gets past a certain threshold of money, they should be checked and limited by the government, because I believe it was Thomas Jefferson has a quote. Basically, when the banks, if they're given too much money, and by banks it's capital interest goes above the people, it's no longer a democracy, and it's true. I
certainly agree.
We really pride ourselves on being a democracy, but
I high key don't believe that he said this. Did he actually say this? If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of the currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. The issuing power should be taken from banks and restored to the people to whom it properly belongs. The quotation is at least partly spurious. See comments below. Quotations often cited as being in the 1802 letter to Secretary of Treasury Albert Gallatin and or published in the debate over the recharter of the bank bill. The reason why I say that it's probably not real is because was there even an alternative to private banking institutions at the time? I feel like there wasn't, right? I mean, I don't know. Let's say he said it. Okay, it's a good concept anyway. But let's see what Stephen Crowder
I
has
think
to
we
say.
can find common ground there, in the sense that
I can find common ground with a lot of right-wing people, but our ideals are against each other because there are certain things
can you let me speak?
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing on too big to fail. I think that big banks want to privatize profits and socialize losses, right? And I think you're saying pick a lane, so where we won't find common ground is more so socialize the banks.
Well,
whereas
what
I'm
do you
saying
mean about socialized losses? Can you expand on that?
Well, they get bailed out by the taxpayer once they screw up their own banking practices, right? They're insured. In other words, when the bank has a problem, they're insured by the federal government. And so that's the taxpayer, and that's people who really shouldn't. Even people who are middle class, people who are lower middle class, paying taxes shouldn't bail out.
Stephen Crowder's like, the FDIC insurance is actually bad and wrong. Okay, dude. Well, then, like, we can't do banking then. You know, there needs to be guarantee. There needs to be some level of guarantee. Like, I'm not against the certain ways that we have decided the government should operate. There needs to be some level of regulation, unless you just want, you know, multiple fucking slurp juices to basically create multiple different apes, as long as you use them, right? Like, and help people understand that.
Even past that,
do we agree on that?
I do agree on that.
There you go.
But even past that, what the hell do we get as taxpayers even without that? We're one of the richest nations in the world. We don't have our free healthcare. We don't have a public transport system that's adequate. Dallas, we have a public transport system, but come on, it's bullshit.
Arlington, there is none.
Is there no public transit in Arlington?
For most of the U.S., there's like compared to Europe, you don't need a car really. You can survive quite easily without one. For most of the U.S., if you don't have a car, you are struggling. You don't have a life. You don't have the ability to have a social life. It's difficult to get to work. The U.S. is quite big. We don't invest at all in. We don't invest in the social good really with any of our tax money. Our tax money is it goes to.
I don't really know that I agree with that. I mean, you're talking about many trillions of dollars spent in the war on poverty, and we just talked about multi-trillion dollar
you're in
infrastructure
Dallas
bills
right now, and you see the homeless people in every corner.
No, I agree. I just don't think that the federal.
Many trillions have been spent on the war on poverty. Okay. Nobody said the way that the government is handling poverty is adequate. As a matter of fact, it's inadequate and wrong and horrible. That's kind of the whole point. You can agree that the government is failing the American citizens. Okay, you can agree on that. I think many people do. Republicans love using that energy, however, to channel into like further reactionary goals that abolish all matter of control and regulation at the behest of major corporations, starving the beast, if you will.
What were you asking?
Well, thanks.
Is their point of view was okay. They were pro-choice, and then she was a mother of 4. And when I asked her about the Texas heartbeat bill, she said, "Well, yeah, of course, after a heartbeat, because she had done an ultrasound. She said that's a life. It's a separate heart. Whose heart are you stopping?" My question to you is this, because I know you're coming in hot, and
I'm not coming in hot. I'm really speaking like I'm not coming in hot. I'm not being aggressive.
But you understand the other perspective where someone says,
"Yeah, he's doing this is the third conservative tool in the tool belt, which is, oh, you're triggered. I triggered you. You triggered." Like, no, neither of them are triggered. I think you're just trying to say that and maybe invoke some kind of feeling out of them because you've been fucking, you're not doing a good job with this conversation. I mean, technically he is doing a good job with the conversation because he's able to deflect away from the main point of view, the main perspective, that where he is getting owned on the Roe V Wade side, because I guess the ultimate position he had is, do people really know what Roe V Wade is? It's not even about it's basically about showcasing how stupid these libtards are that are like triggered about Roe V Wade because like they don't even know what it actually is. So now he's like moving, he's just like flailing.
Someone does, certainly more than half the country believe at a limitation at some point, that at a certain point it's no longer your own body. That's their argument, and that's why the Supreme Court has said it's bad law, and states should have the right to enforce those regulations. I'll let the woman speak.
Will the fetus survive if it's outside of your body?
Viability is not a good argument either, and the reason why I'm saying that specifically is because these guys are demons, okay? I get the viability one. It's like a very normal thing to feel. You're like, well, if there's no viability outside of the fucking womb, then like, what the fuck, then that's not a baby that's like reliant on me to survive at this moment, right? Viability outside of the womb argument isn't great because like medical technology has made it so that like the viability outside of the womb has gotten shorter and shorter. You know what I mean?
You don't have any children, right?
No, I don't.
Because a baby won't survive outside of the body.
No, it's relying on your body.
Right. A baby won't survive outside of the body, but I mean, a baby delivered naturally won't survive outside of the body.
I mean,
But we're talking about fetus right now.
I'm talking about a fetus.
So what changes from, let's say, 8 weeks and 6 days, 8 months, 3 weeks, 6 days, to 9 months? Is it just inside, outside the womb that makes it a person?
Well, one's a fetus and one's a baby.
But why is one a fetus if it's
It's not.
if it's just
it's
one
not
day
re-
shy?
Yeah, he's getting into the weeds of like the idiotic conversation, specifically because he knows it's a losing battle to talk about the autonomy of the woman. Always turn it back to the autonomy of the woman.
I believe the woman has the right to abort a child whenever they want.
So all the way up until 9 months, including birth.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't believe that that baby is a person at 8 months, 7, even though they could be born and viable? Because you said viability earlier. They are viable. It's viable at 21 weeks.
Boom, there you go. It's like, oh, viability? Well, what if they're viable at the fucking 4th month? It's so stupid. It is so incredibly fucking stupid, dude.
If it's a person, I mean, if it's still in your body, you have the choice to do what you want
So
with
is a
your
location what determines a person, in your body or outside of your body? Is
body. Well, once it's delivered, you carried. Okay, first of all, nobody really wants to abort a child at 8 months.
Yeah,
They
it does. It happens all the time.
For many
It happens all the time. Dog, are you against it? Are you against it? Are you against the fucking termination happening at 8 months? Because when it does happen, it's incredibly rare, but it's happening to a person that wanted to carry that pregnancy to term. Shut the fuck up, you lying piece of shit. I wish he was aborted. Whenever I see Steven Crowder talk to someone about this, I'm like, dude, you should have been aborted for the medical, not even for medical reasons. You should have just been aborted for fun.
reasons. If they,
I've had a couple
that's
friends with
still
abortions. It was never at 8 months. It was always at like when they find out.
a few months.
it
Yeah,
happens.
But
it's-
my
Happens
problem
tens of
also,
thousands a year. Yeah.
my problem also with this abortion bill is that it's
Well, now we're shifting the goalposts, right? I'm just saying it does happen, and
Yeah.
there are states that
And I
restrict
wanna
it, but there are
know-
some states that don't. My question is, would you restrict it then if you're saying
No.
Okay, so someone should be able to abort at 8 months, 9 months.
If that's what they choose.
Okay, why?
Why? Because it's their body, so it's their choice.
So
It's a person who is able to have a child,
Mm-hmm.
so it's their choice.
You brought up the war on drugs earlier and how it was ineffective because we poured all this money into it and we really heavily criminalized like drugs and to like an extreme extent, and it never worked. It actually made the problem worse. If you read any white papers, like any research paper on abortion and like limiting abortions, no matter what your ideal of like how conception or when it becomes a baby, abortions, like throughout anywhere that abortions have been criminalized, they still happen. But when you criminalize them, then you have the problems that we're facing right now in the drug world. It's fentanyl, and I've lost 3 friends in 2 years from fentanyl. But in abortions, it's going to be illegal abortions because people are still going to be desperate and still going to have them, and people are still going to die and be like harmed.
Now I'm 21.
But there won't be illegal.
Right now I'm
What do you mean they won't be
21. I
illegal?
can't
That's
afford
what
to have a
they're doing.
child,
Okay.
but if I were pregnant, I couldn't afford to have a child. I would get an abortion, a safe, legal abortion. It would allow me to have a child in the future.
little more
If you're
fentanyl.
taking away safe, legal abortions, then if someone has no choice and can't afford a child and
Well,
still.
they have a lot of. Let's be honest about this. It's just I think they have a lot of choices.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
So if it was not legal to have an abortion and a person is still able to go out and have what we call a back alley abortion, could ruin their body for the rest of their life. They're not going to be able to have a child in the future.
Not necessarily.
Why?
The correlation equaling causation that a safe legal abortion, and there's of course the argument to be made that it's never safe for the baby involved, but there are other choices that wouldn't insure anything, because what does insure it is contraception, abstinence,
Why is
motherhood,
it-
adoption.
Why is
Abstinence
it not?
doesn't work. Everybody knows that.
Okay, I gave you
abstinence.
3 other options.
Yeah, I mean, abstinence works for Steven, so he just can't see it outside of that world where, he is an unfuckable little freak.
From people who haven't been having sex.
Yeah, but we're all human and everybody has sex. And you try to teach kids about abstinence like they taught us in Texas, and it doesn't work. And a lot of
No,
people get pregnant when they're young. Because
It's demonstrably a failure. Abstinence only, in states where there's abstinence only sex ed, which is not even real sex ed to begin with, the teenage pregnancy numbers are fucking way higher. So shut the fuck up, Steven.
they don't know anything about
Well,
contraception.
they get pregnant if they're not practicing abstinence. Yes, I agree with you.
But who practices abstinence? Are you going to be a monk? Do you practice abstinence?
I've written about it extensively, yeah, before
Yeah,
I
but
was
do you
married.
practice it?
Yeah, before I was married, yeah. A lot of people do.
To each their own. But
Well, you just made
most
an
black
argument
people
that
don't.
said to each their own. Yeah. I said three
Really?
options. There's
I didn't say
abstinence,
three.
Well, you
there's
know,
abstinence,
Most people don't.
contraception.
Most people
A
don't do that.
teenager in high
contraception.
school, if you tell them to never have sex, well, of course they're going to have sex.
And a lot of
Well, I
people
think you
don't
say
have the
abstinence,
same.
contraception.
And you never teach the person or the child in high school how to have safe sex.
Right.
That's the whole point of
But I'm not
abstinence, right?
advocating that. Abstinence, contraception, motherhood, adoption. Abortion's not required to ensure it. Do you understand? Because you use the word required to ensure.
You know
I'm
people
sure
that
you're
were
aware
in-
that there are states that are making contraceptives illegal.
No, I'm not.
You're not aware of that?
There's
There are
been
no-
multiple
There are
talks
no
include-
states right now that make contraception illegal.
Yeah, but
Well, you know
Mrs.
they're
You're aware that's-
trying to, right?
Okay. So
Oh, they're trying to, so it doesn't matter. Hey, dumbass, we got to this argument regardless, right? Yeah, states were trying to fucking make, they were trying to criminalize abortions, and look where we're at now. So obviously, when someone says like, oh, states are trying to do this or states are trying to do that, like, yeah, clearly they are, in a lot of instances, like actually getting to that situation, okay? They're successfully doing that. Suck my dick. Holy fuck.
We
Talking about
gotta
rates
go,
of-
so can we bring it back and wrap it up on whatever?
Yeah, no,
night
I
you'd
thought
like
we
to
just
wrap
did
up?
bring it back. You brought it back to
Yeah.
the war on drugs, that you were studying human rights abroad and can't afford a house, and that's a human right on the internet, and I think we've gone to a lot of different directions. Where I wanted to just have a conversation about Roe v. Wade,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you going these
You
different
smoke
directions.
nicotine? You can smoke if you want.
It's okay, I don't need anything. I appreciate it though. Thanks
of
for
course.
offering. But I think I understand where you guys line up on Roe v. Wade,
Yeah.
and I think that there's a divide in this country, and
There is a
states
divide.
are going to be able to
It's
establish
sad,
their own
but-
laws.
My point is I mean, you're not able to carry a child
Mm-hmm.
because I'm assuming that you are a man without a uterus.
Why?
And okay,
Because
well,
you're
fuck.
Steven Crowder and you
Because
run
you're
the
fucking
Steven
Steven
Crowder
Crowder,
show.
and I know you have a penis.
How do you know I have a
You know.
penis?
Oh well, I don't. Never mind. It doesn't.
Oh God, this is great. You should be like, hey, actually, as a matter of fact, I don't know. So I'm not gonna make that assumption. Do you? Maybe you should stop making that assumption all the fucking time. You transphobic piece of shit. Oh God, I hate him. I hate him so much.
You can show us real quick. You want to prove
That's a felony.
it? We're okay with it. We're consenting. So
It
come
doesn't
on,
matter.
show
The
us
other
your
people
dick.
here aren't
Okay.
consistent.
Oh, dude!
I'm a man, and let me guess, you're about to say because I'm a man, I shouldn't have an opinion on abortion, right?
Well,
Do you have an opinion on murder, theft, arson?
Oh my God. Like, this is, I hate this. I hate this conversation. I hate it. Dude. You being a man in this situation is part of the reason why you can be so comfortable about having a bad and wrong opinion. Even though, once again, you're a man, so you shouldn't have a opinion on this issue is not exactly a great one, because if you look at the statistics, it's the pro-life and pro-choice movement are dominated by women, for the record. So it's mostly it isn't like just the male legislators that are fucking pro-life. It's actually usually women that are also pro-life. They're freaks. Okay,
a silly
they're freak ass
You can
women
have
out
an opinion.
there.
We're all entitled to our opinion.
Yeah,
but-
thank you, man. I appreciate it. You guys have a good.
I appreciate it. All right. In the beginning, he was owning him because he was like dominating the conversation in areas that that Steven Crowder actually was not able to fucking respond to. But the moment that you like concede or you give ground to Steven and you let him fucking ask like silly ass, dumbass fucking questions, and force you into like weird hypotheticals, like it's gonna come across like he's winning the argument, because debates are, again, for perverts and for freaks.